Who does not know Philips? Who does not have a Philips product in their house? Actually, we have 3 divisions. And typically, the products that you have in your house come from one of our smallest division, which is consumer lifestyle, which is doing the toothbrushes, the coffee machines, the house utensils. We also have a healthcare division, which about 40,000 people, which is selling CTs and MRIs and ultrasounds and those type of products to hospitals. And then we have the lighting business, which is our biggest business people-wise, 54,000 people doing lighting, doing the lamps, the luminaires, controls, all kind of things around lighting. Do you know how you can recognize a Philips lighting person in a supermarket? They're walking like that, looking at the lighting all the time, and all the opportunities. When I'm looking around here of all these TL lights and these type of old lighting, there's a lot of improvements to be made. I joined Philips about 2 years ago, September 2010, and I've been going around in different continents and things like that. And my CEO at the time, he said, we're feeling a pain. We're feeling a pain that our business is changing so dramatically. We're coming from a traditional business model with our traditional lighting. Anybody knows what the product life cycle is of a TL lamp like this? And I told you yesterday. Any guess? How long it takes before you cannot buy it anymore in a store? Because the next generation has come about?
5 years.
Sorry?
5 years.
5 years? Go higher? 20 is too high. It's about 12 to 15 years. And my CEO says, we know that business. But in our new business model, which is LED and in intelligent lighting, guess what the product life cycle is in those areas, or with those technologies? 3 to 5 years? 9 to 11 months. So knowledge has to flow. We're going to name you Dean, which is actually quite strange things for a Dutch company to do, where everybody's pretty egalitarian. But we're going to give you this fancy name. I'm also the CLO. I'm reporting into marketing. I'm reporting into the CMO of the organization, but I'm also a senior member of the HR team, so I have both links. I'm not a great believer in blended learning as it stands in the traditional model, because until recently, I think blended learning was an excuse to keep a classroom in the middle and to build some things around it, and I think that's the wrong model. I believe much more in a term that was coined already about 10 years ago, which is blurred learning, where all the different methods are taken or are considered equally, and classroom is one of them, but all of the other options, formal and informal, of course, are also important. I'm going to talk a little bit about new paradigms of learning we're introducing, some things we're doing, and then 2 specific programs around LED blended approach, I think a 21st century approach to LED, and also towards sales skills that we're doing. Yesterday, Negroponte, who talked about constructivism versus instructionalism, and I found it actually a pity that he didn't go deeper on that. But I think the model I'm trying to describe here is also much more the new way, much more employee-driven versus trainer-driven or training organization-driven. Typically, the people sitting here around the room are learning specialists, but are people coming into the organization come often from a different generation, and we're designing things for them, which not necessarily fit the bill. Also, the just-in-time, just-in-case story, the training versus knowledge, the input versus output. I'm also responsible for knowledge management in the organization. That helps. For me, it's also not about training, it's about knowledge. You'll hear me say later that I actually don't care how people learn, as long as they're capable to do whatever they're supposed to be doing. This is a model that I'm working with. I think what we're typically good at, or what we were typically good at Philips, is what we call training. And training for me is a function of getting up to speed, which is typically a formal activity. Informal can be classroom, can be e-learning, can be webinars, can be anything, just a formal learning approach. Now that we're pretty good at, but if you're asking senior people that have been around in the company for 5 years or so, how much training did you get in the last year? Answers typically are nothing. But they still learned a lot. But I think what we as learning professionals are not really good at is how do we tap into that business? Informal learning was a dirty word until a couple of years ago, with the instructional designers who were developed or who got their education in the 1990s or so. Nobody wanted to talk about that. And I still hear learning and development professionals who don't really want to care about informal learning because we're so good at formal learning in our classes and things like that. No, I think the competitive dimension of any company, if you can crack that, you as a learning and a good organization will get all the budgets that you want, and your companies will be so much more competitive than the second guy around, or the second company around. We've linked certification in the middle, which is a proof of knowledge. And for me, that's the pillar around everything we're doing. The proof, the output. Proof of knowledge. Prove that you know what you're supposed to be doing so you can play around in the communities and things like that with the big boys and girls in the performance support arena. This is how my view of the world, how learning should look like. Everybody knows that classroom was developed in the Industrial Revolution, when the master apprenticeship model didn't work anymore. But still very much we're working with that model as if it's the truth and the only truth. And I want to go away with that. I think about 2% of what we're doing is classroom training. The rest is all everything else. For me, YouTube is a function of video, but also of short. Any e-learning package we're making lasts no more than 4 minutes. And moreover, they're lasting only 2 minutes. And we have hundreds of them. So people can access them in a very alinear manner. Google is about searchability. Think about training versus knowledge. It's about accessing knowledge. And then, of course, the boundaries between information and knowledge or learning are blurring anyway. So I'm working with that knowledge. It's about technologies, being able to distribute it over different technologies. It's about fun, creating a pull factor, a viral factor, but also very much about speed and just in time, and keeping the classroom, be it virtual or live, still intact, but less so than we were used to before. Speed to knowledge is my paradigm. Remember what I said about LED just now and the product life cycles? For me, it has to go fast, internally and towards customers. My CEO said at the time, let's not focus on the managers, let's focus first on our sales and marketing people, and then on our customers. And then later we can come back and see which other groups we're going to focus on. So now I'm getting into the blended story. Or maybe before that, I have 2 people in my team. I have a team globally about 70 people, sitting in the regions and the countries. And 2 people in my central team. I've got a central team of about 10 people in lighting. They spend their time on marketing, full-time marketeers, pushing out things internally towards customers, and that's proved to be a huge success on actually making noise about all the good things we're doing and upgrading it all the time. Looking at the web hits we're getting. I use this to track the success of the uptake of all the things that we have. I do not use an LMS by default. I do not want to use an LMS because it doesn't work in my business model. I do tracking through web metrics. And we're now the 7th most successful website in the entire company, or the learning portal, if you want, in the entire company. I have an average of 14 minutes of that anybody logging onto the system, or not even logging onto the system, coming to the site, because there's absolutely no log-on needed, spends 14 minutes per visit, 30,000 unique visitors, and a multitude of that are repeat visitors. So we're creating a huge amount of pull with all the things we're doing, and I think that's due to all the marketing we're doing and changing things. On a daily basis, we track our web statistics, what works, what doesn't work, and then we change whatever we want. You have access to technology, access to your function. I'm marketing, I'm sales, I'm quality, I'm a new hire, or through our business accesses and keeping it up to date all the time. I think that's an important thing, whether you want to launch blended or not. Now this is one dimension of blended where the output for me is certification. I don't put classroom in the middle in this dimension. I put certification in the middle as a driving force of blending all things around it. Because blending means just blending, like a blender putting things together, whether it's a classroom or something else. And that's the model I'm using. Now this is now a technology type of certification. We're talking about level 2 Kirkpatrick, knowledge certification. I don't care how people get to their knowledge. It's course independent. People do not have to prepare anything before they get to that certification. And you have, like many people are pretty arrogant, salespeople, but also a lot of our R&D people and so on, and say, I've been working here for 20 years, I'll quickly do it, and I'll get over with it. Because as soon as people pass the test, they're off the hook for the next 18 months, and then they don't have to do anything anymore. And then there's a recertification model. Now, 70% of the people fail. And we have 3 levels. I'll show that in a second. We have really an LED for Dummies level, which is not really a certification. And then we have 2 higher levels where 70% of people fail. So it's basically learning by falling in your face. You try something out, you realize you actually don't know after 20 years of working around here with this new technology, which is new anyway, and you were not supposed to pick it up 20 years ago. And then we give an entire area of knowledge to get you the second time around to pass that test. Because it's so difficult, and because the marketing we put behind it, people are so proud when they get this certification that they suddenly want to show off to their customers, to their peers, to their managers that they've reached that level. We started off as a grassroots level, but as soon as we had 1,000 of these high-level certifications, suddenly it became viral. And managers picked up with it, and countries and business groups, and suddenly they mandated that everybody within their organizations had to do this. Afterwards, we're already using the same model of a blended approach where certification is at the center of things, not only for LED. We reached 23,000 only in 1 year. We have a target group of 54,000 within Philips Lighting, of which 50% are blue collars, and 50%, around 27,000 blue collars, 27,000 white collars. 23,000 of the white collars were certified within 1 year. I think that's pretty good, no? Just to get everybody around doing that. And now we're launching also things for controls, lighting theory. And also, very interestingly, we're working now together very closely with our HR colleagues to have some culture change programs, using basically the same tricks of using e-learnings and tests and fun videos, all to support a new cultural dimension we want to launch in the company, i.e. courageous conversation, which is something like, you might have also have it in your companies, but it's okay to communicate. It's okay to say, to speak up, even in a crisis situation. Now again, certification in the middle. There's no path in this blended approach. Certification is, of course, independent. People don't have to follow anything in advance. If they fail, then we give opportunities for downloading mobile apps. We're also doing, this is also for customers who can download this. We have edu games. We have ebooks, which can you view on your PC, on your iPad. It's a simple PDF file which you can flip through. You can download this. We have live and recorded webinars. We use a very successful community around people having questions. How does that work in that area? And they get immediate feedback. We have e-learnings. We have wikis, all supporting people to prepare themselves for this. Next time around, I hope to pass. And typically people pass after the second time, sometimes after the third time. And we have this strong statement that you can only try 3 times, otherwise people try all over it again and again and again. But we can reset it after 3 times. It's more like a marketing gimmick to to limit at 3 times. Interesting also, this is just coming off the press. We did an ROI study around that, this LED certification, and asking about 200 managers and salespeople, just focusing on salespeople for a second, whether this actually had a positive ROI. And the results are tremendous in terms of relevance, very relevant, in terms of performance, whether the performance actually improved or very much improved. So over 50% of the people say very much improved, 24% somewhat. Productivity, definitely, probably almost 75%. And then the most important one, impact on the bottom line. Do you sell more now? Yes or no? And you see here 74% of the people say, and their managers, that because of this program, you sell more. I showed this to my CEO just before Christmas. In times of crisis, and you probably read that Philips is not doing so well, financially at least, I get higher budgets and I had more people just because of this information. And for me, that's a blended approach towards looking at the problem in the organization, being creative of addressing this, proving results, and then asking for more goodies in the process. Of course, that's we're all understaffed and we all have more projects that we can deal with. But this is powerful, I find. This is also an interesting part of using. This is not really blended. This is a central local blend where we have a central new hire program which we called Connected to Lighting, where we created either repurposed existing information on a portal, no logon, or create our own videos with senior management or e-learning programs or recorded webinars or so for people to look at. The idea initially was to do this for all the new hire population. Now, looking at these visits, which are pretty good, we're not recruiting so many people, but actually a lot of not so new people are also coming to these sites because they're interested in keeping themselves up to date as well. So we call it Connected to Lighting and not the new hire program anymore. And then locally, you might have face-to-face sessions which are blending in with what we have here. Of course, I'm running a global operation where you cannot touch everybody like that. We have another approach which we just started. The model we're using for skills, for sales skills, is still pretty traditionalist. You will see here, we just launched it, and we're not ready to move it to the next stage with certification in the middle. We have now a sales curriculum where the functional sales skills are 2 levels, basic selling skills, and more advanced, as solution selling, account planning, sales management, and lead and opportunity management. Those 4 areas we identified as the biggest pain points in our sales organization across sectors, not only within lighting. I'm also doing this for healthcare and consumer lifestyle. And we created pre-assessments. We have e-learning preparation. We still do a classroom training, God forbid. Now we're doing this with Philips trainers. We have a trainer-trainer process where we're training the best salespeople to go through a methodology and transferring that to other people. The NPS score, the feedback that we're getting is 30% better of our internal sales people doing training than your external super-duper trainer coming in and doing the training. Just because of the credibility issue, just because of the knowledge of the Philips sound bites, the Philips strategy and things like that. I find this amazing. So we have Philips trainers, and then people have library access. We are also coaching training their managers in coaching so they can continue the discussion. And then we're moving to skill certification. Level 3, that's not ready yet. Level 3 Kirkpatrick. Next time when I'm giving a presentation, I'll have results on that. We want to make it 360, a 360 exercise for people to assess whether they actually have it, what it takes to be a Philips salesperson at skill level, not at level 2, at knowledge level. And we want to make the skill certification move that all the way up in the beginning. Because the really good salespeople, they don't need to go through this process. If you're good, you're off the hook until 2 years from now when we're checking it again and the business might have changed or so. So we're putting this certification, the skill certification up front. And if you're not reaching that level, then we have an entire array again of a personalized curriculum for you. Maybe just coaching is good enough for you, or maybe just reading books is good enough for you, or maybe just going to the e-learning libraries and learning some of the tools is good enough for you. So that's the model that we want to move towards. This we're rolling out now. We did 5 sessions in South Africa, in Russia, in Egypt, in North America, and we're going to roll them out further. This model, and by the end of Q2, we'll have the skill certification sorted out and start rolling it out for the further countries that are coming. That's, how much time do I have? Yeah, great.
We can relax a little now. Have we got a room mic conveniently at hand so that we can use it if we need to? Because I'm going to come down there with you, and then I can try and spot who's got questions and throw some on the way.
Question for Stefan. Sorry if I missed something. I was just interested without the use of an LMS and with all the different elements that were part of your blend, how you got to the actual agreement that someone had got certification.
Ask again?
I was just saying, without an LMS to track specifically what an individual is completing, I missed how you...
Very good question. I use a certification engine. I don't use an LMS in the traditional model, like the I'm using one of these. I'm using for this question mark QMP to do the assessments, but that's only testing. I do track the output, and I track it viciously. Every morning at 9:30, I get a global report from all the different regions and all the countries of all the people that got certified, and I can check how much scores you have and which questions you did well and you didn't do well and how much time you spent on it. I do that viciously. But the input I don't track. How many books you read, or how many e-learnings you took, or how many e-learnings you took, or whether you did a classroom course which is organized within your country. I don't care. And I don't even want to track that. So that's maybe why I don't use an LMS.
Just to expand on that question, without the LMS, and you're saying you track all the results of the tests and everything, where did you put that on an Excel spreadsheet? I mean, how do you do that?
Yeah, it's QMP that records, that hosts all the questions, and I get an Excel-based output every morning at 9:30. That's pushed to me automatically from the system.
And do you see that being your long-term plan as well? I mean, I feel like that's what we did way back in the 90s.
Absolutely. Absolutely, I see that. No, I don't know many companies that were doing that that way back, but I think just to focus, the mental focus on focusing on output is creating so much more transparency in an organization, in the eyes of management, for instance. I don't go back to management and say I trained 500 of your people, because who cares? But I say I've certified your people at that really difficult level, and that's creating the transparency that at least my management wants to hear.
As the microphone passes across the room, I've got a quick one for both of you from me, which is you've both stressed the importance of advocacy. you know, at different levels within the organisation. And you spoke, Lee, about engaging line managers and getting them involved. How do you do that?
Giving them the information is the first key step, I think, and giving them easy access to that information, and then having conversations with them, because just giving them the information doesn't necessarily make them want to do it. We've implemented something around what we call operational disciplines, which is trying to look at a balanced operation, being closer to the business, closer to our people, and there's an element of that, which on a quarterly basis is kind of a review of what's going on from a development perspective. Our good managers were kind of doing it anyway, to be honest. Our not so good managers were perhaps not bothering to do it. And again, just making it part of that process doesn't make it happen. But again, it's that if your boss is talking about it and your boss's boss is talking about it, I think that makes a massive difference. But giving them the information is critical.
Do you want the same answer?
If you mean advocacy, how we rolled it out, first of all, we rolled it out bottom up. We celebrated successes. We gave an iPad to the first 5 people in every market, in the 17 markets we have, to roll it out. We bribed people a little bit. But like if you're rolling out things, you have to do it professionally. And if your companies are rolling out products, you also use an entire set of tools at your disposal to do that. And we're trying to do the same internally. And bottom up, we're rolling it out until management saw what was happening. And then they took over almost, and they pushed it forward.
Sounds good. Yes.
We find bribing with Millie's cookies works quite well as well.
My question is really related to a concept you talked about in your presentation, where you said the old way and the new way, and you alluded to the push and pull and personalized learning environments. Have you used that in this model, and what are your views on the whole aspect of personalization of learning environment, or bringing in intelligence into the learning environment, where the learner really is empowered to choose and select elements of learning that makes him or her certified quicker compared to what is given to her in a more formal setup. So just wanted to hear your views on the aspect of push and pull.
The fact that I don't create a training track is already allowing people to create their own paths. I'm personally not a great believer in these personal learning environments because it shouldn't be a personal learning environment, it should be your personal environment. It shouldn't be an extra page that you log on to, it should be appearing on your internet or intranet site where you have company information and suddenly also your learning information. I'm personally a great believer in personalization of learning and not corporate curricula, where somebody up there decides that thou shall follow this because you're a level 3 salesperson. People are so different from each other that you have to let it go and you have to give the freedom to people to decide. Of course, you have to give the tools in flexible manners, but it's that's maybe strange, but that's my belief. Oh, sorry.
There's quite a contrast in styles between your two programs, which made that really interesting to have them one after another. Do you think that's the difference in styles is down to the difference in cultures between your organisations, or your personal approaches and values on how to do training like this?
I'll let you answer that first.
I think it's more down to our where we are at the company. When I joined Philips, Nokia was a former company. I was talking about it yesterday evening quite heavily. When I joined Philips, 90% of the learning was classroom-based, very traditionalist. And I think I did a huge knowledge management survey where I was trying to figure out whether what my CEO said was actually true in all the markets that we did this survey in. We didn't say that it was a university commissioning this, because otherwise you have too much of a bias towards training and classes and things like that in the mentality of that time. And it came out that the biggest challenge of our salespeople to sell more than competition was two things: was about knowledge about new technologies and knowledge about new products. And that was beginning of my goal. And we tried to be really creative and not creating 200 hours of classroom trainings where we pushed everything through, but we created something different, and that was up to the creativity of my team, I think, to turn that around. But Lee?
Right, sorry,
Do you want to pick that one up?
Yeah, just to say, I agree. I think it's the industry we're in. I'm going to guess that majority of your guys have access to a PC or a laptop or some kind of technology. I'm working with people in a unit, as I say, that they're fighting to get to the PC. I think the reality, educational level, the requirements of a government program such as an apprenticeship require you to do a number of things you have to do in a mandatory way. And, you know, it's not very flexible. And then, you know, if I think of a country like France, where they pay a training tax to the government, which they don't have to claim back as a credit, it's all about doing it in a training room. So trying to do anything on the job that you can get funding for is practically impossible. It has to be done in a training room. So I think it's industry is probably the biggest challenge, but just the type of thing we do as well. So,
without having an LMS to track what people have learnt, how do you detect and prevent cheating on the final exam?
That's a brilliant question.
And the brilliant answer?
Deep down, I trust people. We don't have any ways of actually seeing whether people actually take or cheat or have their neighbor do the answers for them. We have, the closest we can have to bypass that is the trusting people and communicating that trust and celebrating successes. And if people really cheated, then it's up to their own egos to feel that they did the right or not the right thing. We also have recertification, where 18 months later the neighbor might not be sitting next to them. And then it's... Sorry?
That's social learning, that's not cheating.
Well, that's also a brilliant point. And it's even by doing these tests and by having your neighbor do it, and of course we don't want that, people will learn that the output, the CRI output of these lamps is 80 and not 90, just to give an example, which is very important for our industry. But of course we don't want that, but we trust people. That's, I think, the basic answer.
Okay, well, can I sort of draw things to a conclusion there, and once again thank Stefaan van Hooydonk and Lee Sheldon for some very interesting and illuminating experiences. Thank you very much both.